My question is over the dynamic display ordinance, and would either, to me, the dynamic display has become a non-issue. Would you consider repealing it or altering it in any way as it currently stands?
And we have a confused look from Bill Lambert. So I think you're referring to the new ordinance that regulates the size and brightness of dynamic display advertising signs.
Exactly.
Okay. And we'll go to Bill Lambert on that first.
When I was on planning and zoning a number of years ago, prior to being on council, there was quite a lighting ordinance that we had with both signs and lighting in general in itself. And we had some things in place for that. I'm not opposed to big signs as long as they fall within the credence of what the code says now. If it's something other than that, and it would need to be something that would change in the code or a variance in the code, then that's something that we have various boards take a look at. But if it's something that is not in the code that is illegal, well, sure, I would, it's something we need to take a look at. It would have to be something that would have to be fixed, something would have to be changed. And we got various boards in our city that takes looks at these things. But if the sign is within its rules, within the regulations, within the codes, I have no problem with it.
And that was Bill Lambert. Now Nancy Chaney.
The ordinance pertaining to dynamic display signs, I think, is a very good one. It was developed with input from our business community, from transportation safety specialists, from city staff, and citizens at large. It was a group effort, a coalition effort to come up with something that would provide for the safety of motorists and pedestrians because of the distraction that some of those signs provide, the disruption of the ambiance, a sense of community in places where the ambient light was such that it would be so much brighter than or that the sign would be so much brighter than the ambient light was a distraction and disruption to the neighborhoods in which they existed, whether they're business oriented or they're more residential. So I support this. I think it was done with a lot of thoughtful input, and our city council supported it as well.
And that was Nancy Chaney. We have Nancy Chaney and Bill Lambert, the candidates for mayor of Moscow, in the studios. The election's November 5th. There's also an election for 3 open seats on the Moscow City Council. Now, during the last period, there's been a lot of changes that have been made to city code regarding animals. Dogs have been banned in farmers market. There's that's probably just a regulation. There's also a whole new area of code about agricultural animals, which says, for instance, you can keep chickens but not rabbits. And I should mention this was an emailed in question, and I haven't normally been doing that because I like the dynamics of the phone calls. But I figured we'd get this. This person wasn't able to call tonight. So at the recent Moscow League of Women Voters Forum, mayoral candidate Bill Lambert said that Moscow has a dog problem. So there are also studies out that say household cats are causing the demise of songbirds. So what is your vision of animals in the city? Do you think the city council has more work to do on this issue? And this will go to Nancy Chaney first.
Well, we've looked at dog and cat regulations, and as you would imagine, they're emotionally charged for sure. Certainly dogs at large or vicious animals ought to be addressed in a careful way. I would love to see a new dog park develop. We have just one so far, and it's a great success. And the volunteers out there who are passionate about their canine family members, I think would agree that another park would be in order. I'm so proud of the urban agriculture ordinance. We had a lot of people working very hard on that. And as we look at local food production, both for personal sustenance and for entrepreneurism, I think we have some great opportunities ahead, and this new urban ag ordinance does accommodate that. Of course, married to a veterinarian, I'm probably biased in some of my perspective of animals, but they're important. I think you've heard me say before, dogs make people better people.
And that was Nancy Chaney, and now Bill Lambert.
Thank you, Lee, for the question. I want to clarify something. At the League of Women Voters, I made a comment that the hundreds of doors that I've banged on and talked to folks, I couldn't believe how many dogs that we had here in Moscow. I love dogs, and so for all you dog lovers, I do love dogs. I had a number of labs throughout my lifetime, and they're precious animals to all of us. And as the mayor said, we do have a vicious dog ordinance, which I fully believe in. And I also like the fact that we ban dogs from the farmer's market. I think that's a good thing from a sanitation practice. I think that's fine. But hey, for all you dog owners out there, I love dogs. And that's the end of that, Lee.
And that was Bill Lambert. The next question will go to Bill Lambert first. So, caller, you're on the air.
Because I think the candidates' actions will be directly influenced, I'd like to know specifically their opinion as regards the Tea Party agenda.
All right, that'll go to Bill Lambert.
Well, the Tea Party agenda, which is a right-wing part of the Republican Party, I am not really in tune to what they do, what their beliefs are, and what I would specifically do. Every time something comes up, whether it be from the Tea Party, Liberation Party, or whatever, you take these things as they come up, and it's pretty difficult to say the what ifs. What would you do if this happened or that happened? Because these consequences and things you do. One of the things I've learned in the 4 years I was on city council, you deal with these types of issues as they develop, talk to them, bring them straight forward, and get all the players involved so everybody has a great line of communication so they know what's going on. And that's how I'm going to answer that question, Lee.
And that was Bill Lambert, and now Nancy Chaney.
Well, it's my understanding that Tea Party is focused largely is focused on smaller government or less intrusive government, and with local government being closest to the people, with it being nonpartisan, with it being responsive to the citizens. I would hope that some of those people who believe that big government gets in the way would have an appreciation for the good work that local government does in our communities. We are efficient with our dollars. Some of that is by state statute, requires us to have a balanced budget, but so much of it is because we look each other in the eye when we meet in the grocery store or on the sidewalk at the farmer's market or something. Local government is small government, and we do have that in common. I oppose violence or suggestions of it, but I don't think that's fundamental to the Tea Party, just to some of those who would advocate for some of the same principles.
And that was Nancy Chaney, and the next question will go to Nancy Chaney first. So, caller, you are on the air.
Yeah, actually, my question kind of spins off of what we were talking about. Today it's really become popular to, move away from the whole New Deal thing, the government employing people for jobs. And I was wondering how both candidates felt about privatization, because obviously the city of Moscow could get rid of their landscaping crews. They could get rid of all sorts of crews and sell it all off to the lowest bidder in the private sector. How do the candidates feel about having jobs that are produced by the government?
And that will go to Nancy Chaney first.
Well, certain jobs that pertain to the public good or that relate to public health and safety, things along the lines of water safety, water quality protection, wastewater management, the matters of transportation and maintaining sight lines safe or along our roadways and that sort of thing rightfully belong in the public realm. We have a number of public-private partnerships, things that are mutually beneficial. So some of our tree trimming efforts, some of our backflow protection testing with the water flow system are in partnership with the private sector. I do think that, for reliability, affordability, and just predictability of outcomes, it makes sense for our parks crews to be maintaining the parks. We have oversight over the chemicals that might be used for weed eradication and that sort of thing. So room for private sector, absolutely, but I think the public sector has its place still.
And that was Nancy Chaney, and now Bill Lambert.
I'm very much in favor of not growing our number of employees in our city, But I want to tell folks out there, I worked on council for 4 years, and we have got a terrific staff of employees out there that do a variety of different things, and they're very talented in what they do. Now, does that mean we won't take a look at using public contractors sometimes to do things? No, absolutely. I think there's times that we can. Nancy talked about tree trimming and such things as that. We also do some of our painting and striping of the roads with contract work, and some of those things can be looked at. And weed control and some of those other issues that are out there. Yes, we definitely can take a look at doing some contract work with the public or private sector rather than just having public workers do those things. But I want folks to remember we've got a terrific staff of employees that work here for the city. I'm not interested in growing the numbers that we have, but I think it's something we can sure take a look at.
And that was Bill Lambert, KRFP Moscow. And we have another caller. The phone number, by the way, is 892-9200. So caller on line 1, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for having me on. This is a follow-up question to the reservoir question. I just want some clarification when I vote. Mayor Chaney, had mentioned that she voted against the reservoir because she was only for it if it was for fire suppression purposes for the airport and didn't want it to be used for development. The question is are you against development, or are you against the idea of using alternative water sources for development? And then also the same question to Bill. Obviously, you weren't on the board, but what would you do about that?
Okay, this will go to Bill Lambert first.
Well, all the way through my campaign, I'm very much interested in community development. I think we need community development, and part of that process is businesses, industry, and a number of different things. So thanks for asking that question. I mean, I like the idea of reservoirs, and I think it's something that we definitely need to take a look into and work on, because, as I said earlier in my statement, our aquifers are going down, so we need to come up with some other solutions when it comes to water retention and different things, how we can use waters. But I'm very much in favor of development. Development that happens in Pullman, I think we need to be partnerships with the entire Palouse, work with the city of Pullman as well as what we do here in Moscow, because we're all part of the Palouse. And what we do well collectively for both towns, both universities, is going to fare well for us for our entire region.
And that was Bill Lambert, and now Nancy Chaney.
The reservoir of which you speak was an airport project that was being considered by all the constituents of the airport board. So as vice chair, it was my role to have an animated conversation with my colleagues there, and in the end, the decision to just use the reservoir for fire suppression prevailed in that case. Washington State University is allowing its water right to be used, but exclusively for the purpose of fire suppression at the airport and not expansion of the development in there. I do support economic development. I do support collaboration, and just said that again at a meeting today as we're talking about water supply for sustaining the entire Palouse Basin. It's not something that any one entity can do alone. It will be hugely expensive, and we have to work together for our collective well-being economically and environmentally.
And that was Nancy Chaney. We're